Fire is asking us this season to really look at our motivation. We don't think so much of the fire as a building force. And this is what fire is presenting. It feels really solidly in the middle as that steady flame, the base of a fire, the heat of the fire, and the formation of the earth and the creation of your beingness and manifestation in the world. Hello everyone, welcome to Elemental Seasons. I'm Dany Lyne, I'm an intuitive, and for the last 20 years I've been co-creating wellness and aligned manifestation with folks worldwide, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. In this series, I'm going to tap us into the primary elemental teacher and their very specific curriculum this season and this year. The more we're aware, the more we can integrate and activate elemental wisdom into our lives. Join my YouTube channel to get your elemental seasonal check-in. Welcome to Elemental Seasons, and this is the juncture between the wood element and the fire element in traditional Chinese medicine. And in the Northern Hemisphere, it's reversed in the Southern Hemisphere, but the equator is not a straight line really on the globe. It's a lovely concept, but it's more like a wave. And so, for instance, Costa Rica follows the Southern Hemisphere schedule, while Bali follows the Northern Hemisphere's schedule. I've been channeling leading up to the solstice, Shri Yukteswar and Anandamayi Ma, and they were really pointing to the healing of the heart space within the womb of the wood. We're of course transitioning in the next few days to the fire teacher, which is really changing the temperature, if you want, of the healing that's coming forward. So just to situate you here, we're talking about traditional Chinese medicine. We're talking about the fire element governing at the organ level anyway, the heart, the duodenum, and the small intestine. So that's the biological heart. So let me tune in, and I'll start channeling. So the fire, the spirit of fire and the fire element is in fact speaking to the healing that's been going on in the biological heart. And in terms of the work that is linked to identities and containers and all the ways in which one defines oneself. And saying that within these containers, there's all these rules and laws, and they're created by culture and geopolitical dynamics and all kinds of stuff, familial dynamics, whatever. And those are a bunch of rules and laws that are actually sometimes overriding and overpopulating us to the degree that we're not in touch with the laws of nature itself, that we're not in tune with the flow of the life force. So the spirit of fire is saying this is really important work, and it's going to keep going. But now you're going to be doing it with me as your teacher. And so, of course, the temperature goes up a bit. It is fire after all. And so what fire is showing me is that we are, and this is where I see the solar plexus comes in, is we're coming into, a very dynamic examination of your relationship to yourself. So you can imagine these containers can blur and I would almost say pollute that environment to a point where you're not in touch with your own worth, you're not in touch with your own sense of self from a point of view of your sovereign self. And that sovereign self is as a living being firmly positioned between the earth and the heavens, right? And the cosmos and the sun and what have you. So what the fire teacher is saying is that this is a time where you're gonna, for some of you, you're gonna meet your whatever remnants of insecurity and confusion is in your heart space, in your being, in your solar plexus, wherever ideas and concepts and containers are getting in the way of your sense of direct relationship with your core essence, with who you really are, and your beautiful, beautiful, as Shri Yukteswar was saying, your beautiful magic wand that you are, which, right, is lit by the spark of the mystery of the energy of life itself, and especially the energy, the element of fire, one of the very important building blocks of the energy of life. So, I don't know if some of you are seeing it coming, but we are talking about these insecurities right now. We are head on with insecurities at whatever level they're occurring. And a lot of those insecurities, right, have been bred within these containers that we've been looking at as being constraining, limited, and often quite confused in terms of who you really are and your worth. So, in terms of traditional Chinese medicine, right, in the sequence of things, we have the wood, we have the fire, and then we have the earth element. And the earth element, right, comes into action in late summer and is a very short season of earth between mid-August and the equinox in September, on September 21st. But you can imagine the fire kind of carries through to the equinox, and the fire is making earth. So whatever insecurities you carry through the fire season will end up in the earth a little bit of a bigger mess, and that will translate as self-doubt, which is even worse than feeling insecure. So fire is saying, you don't think of me so much as the builder, right? Often we think of fire as the destroyer, right? We'll burn things in the fire, that's intentions that, and the past and whatever, we'll burn them in the fire. But we don't think so much of the fire as a building force. And this is what fire is presenting. And to be honest, it feels very yin-yang. It is not a totally yin fire, and it's not a totally yang fire. It feels really solidly in the middle, right? As that steady flame. That's right. So not so much the peak of the flame, but the base of a fire, the heat of the fire, and the formation of the earth, and the creation of your beingness and manifestation in the world, right? Because if you think about on the chakra level, we have the solar plexus, we're moving into manifestation. We're moving toward water and toward earth, right? In the manifesting cycle, which is moving downward through the chakras. But the fire says, I not only build downward toward the manifestations and the translation of your heart song and your medicine and your genius into being, into the world. I also need to be in balance and to be solid in the middle. I need to build up as well. I need to be in direct relationship with the elements right, at the chakra level of the ether, the air and the ether. Because this is where things go really wrong, and I think just watching the news, we see this, is we're seeing fire, right, rather than a building tool that is oriented, transformed, and misused for domination, right? Misused to have power over others. And if we bring it down away from the notion of countries and politics and what have you, and we bring it down to the individual, these individuals involved in these dynamics are profoundly disoriented in terms of how they're using and applying their genius. Right? It's almost like they're looping within the 3 bottom chakras in terms of manifestation, power, more money, more this and that and the other. It's based on competition. It's based on stepping over others to climb no matter what. That's a fire that's lost its direction in terms of its like massive potential of oriented application of genius. All genius is medicine. All genius is flowing through us. This talent, these particular archetypes, these particular impulses that we have to engage in the world, that is always at a fundamental level oriented to your well-being and the well-being of all other beings on the planet, not just humans. So, fire is asking us this season to really look at our motivation. What motivates us? And they're saying one of the really, really potent sources of disorientation in this element, and especially how it's orienting this season, is trying to prove something to someone else. What are you trying to prove? And to whom? And why? And what is that all about? So Shri Yukteswar is actually piping in. He's like, this whole business of the genius and the medicine, it's right, we can simplify it and say, we're just here to help each other out. But if you're trying to prove something to the world, or prove something to a particular audience, or prove something in whatever professional environment you're in, or academia, or whatever it is, if you're trying to prove something, you're trying to be above, you're trying to position yourself as better or whatever. And Shri Yukteswar says that's a lot of hot wind and wasted energy. Because not only are you not helping others, you're actually not helping yourself in that moment. So fire is saying, you know, and over the years I have said this many times, fire is the most disoriented, misused, misunderstood energy, right? In terms of the building blocks of life. It's the most misunderstood element and misused element. It's the most contaminated element. And think about it, it's the most young element, right? So we're talking patriarchy, we're talking, right? It goes into a really, right? Because it's this misunderstanding of the embodiment of young, of oriented young energy, an energy that builds and does not in any way destroy anything. She's saying, Ma is speaking up, and she's saying that fire and yang, a beautiful, healthy yang energy, is actually gentle, is actually the energy, right, of loving kindness in movement. It's the energy of that goodness in the world manifesting and expressing. And she says, you know, the yin is misunderstood. The yin is the mother giving birth. That's pretty fierce. If you've ever given birth yourself, or you've witnessed a woman giving birth, wowzer, right? That is a very different interpretation of yin. So we're coming into what Ma is expressing is ultimately, right, a balanced yang energy, a balanced fire has water in it. And water, the yin energy, has yang in it, has fire in it. So like the symbol, right, the black drop is yin, but it has a round white circle in it. And the drops are in dynamic relationship to each other, constantly changing, constantly modulating the energy. So she's saying when your fire is solid and you're emitting light in a consistent way, you are also deep in your pelvis connected to your water element, and you have those poles dancing that beautiful dance. And when the yang is contaminated and we end up with war and we end up with domination and we end up with bombs and we end up with all kinds of havoc and violence, it's a yang that doesn't have its foundation in the water. And the fire element is coming in now and saying, and it's a fire that is not connected to the orienting power of ether. Ether is the element governing your upper chakras. So just feeling, right? It's fundamentally an axis, and allowing you to snap into, and it's interesting, Shri Yukteswar is like, remember my magic wand? A wand is a line. So he's saying, snap into that line and that central axis in your being. A really firm, beautiful axis. So the fire element is saying when you're in that axis, you're connecting to all the seeds that were milling around when you were in the water season, in your winter, in the womb of the year. You're going back to source. And then you're moving through the wood, right? Your liver and your gallbladder system to move into what that is for you in this lifetime. And what it is for you right now. They're sort of all talking at the same time. The feeling I'm getting from all three is a form of, we're coming back to that business of who you're trying to prove what to. It's a form of radical honesty. And they're saying that it's also not confusing money with validation and distorting the meaning of money in relationship to your genius. They're saying that all of it, if you think about it, is a steady flame, right? That's warming up the water of the womb where the seeds of your essence are. This includes men, you know, we all have that place of creation in our beings. as living beings, male and female. And connecting to that energy and trusting that all the different elements can come into a flow that will make sense in the phenomenal and material world. They're all saying that right now, for all of us, we're really watching the puzzle pieces of our consciousness moving around in a different formation. That's because there's a lot of energy, right? There's solar flares, there's all sorts of things going on that's increasing the energy. There's a speeding up of time. That's been true for the last 2 years, right? It's like the universe is like instead of being a flat piece of paper, it's slightly crumpled. So, right, there's kind of like, there's a compaction going on. And that pressure cooker is ultimately there to support us access the guidance, right, of ether, the guidance of an oriented fire and oriented water. It's meant to help us snap into this axis in all the places in which in our being where we've been confused, where we feel vulnerable, where we don't feel like we're enough or whatever, right? All the insecurities and whatever self-doubt. They're speaking in a joined voice, and they're saying that this is the whole thing, is that we often associate fire with love, and then we get all kind of mushy and Hallmark cardy about it, right? Where we just get into, oh, love, and it gets all soft and mushy and cuddly, and like it might as well be a fuzzy bunny rabbit stuffed animal, like it ends up going to a kind of, and they're all saying, and the fire is now speaking, dominating the trio here for a second. The fire really wants us to inhabit, ultimately in yoga, what's called the spiritual warrior and the peaceful warrior. And this is where in adopting and realizing that it's not like a sitting back and all warm and fuzzy, it's actually being a warrior for peace, which means that your genius is needed, your spark is important in the world to participating, not just in the feeling of peace and inner peace, but the building of peace in the world, making peace happen. So with this fire, right, all that energy that gets distorted and turns into domination and all kinds of nonsense, and people ultimately being hurt, they're saying that it's like, if you can think how much that energy is misused that way, that's how much power there is in it. And that's what we're all scared about, right? So they're saying that power is bravery. It's a humble bravery. There's humility in it, and there's incredible strength in it. The two combined. So the fire energy is saying this is there is a bit of getting it together energy here, as you can, I think, get by a whiff of from the energy here, is that, right, there's a sense of getting it together in terms of being aligned, ethically aligned with the energy of life itself, aligned with your genius, and solid, so that you're not surrendering to fear. You're not falling into fear. So to be a peaceful warrior, to embody love, is also to not fear. And that takes courage. And they're linking up the courage to your heart song. They're linking up the courage to your genius, right? To this medicine that's flowing through you. That medicine, that genius is in and of itself courageous. So it's not a bunch of armor here. It's a courage that comes from an appreciation of the potency of what can come through you and what can manifest through you. Whether you're destined to manifest that in your household in terms of taking care of an autistic child, or you're manifesting it in a more public way. This is not about, right? We're not necessarily all Martin Luther Kings here, right? In that kind of public figure. We're talking about, right, embodying the peaceful warrior in all your environments and in all the different ways that are available to you each day. And fire is saying that's where, and Ma is saying together with fire, is that that's where the humility comes in, because it's every morning when you wake up, there's actually, the day could actually really go wrong. You can really get yourself really confused and messed up just in one day. That's humility, is every morning when you wake up, you have the humility to say, okay, hello, here I am. Let me embody the peaceful warrior as best as I can today. But this is a beautiful time for action, for putting things into motion. It's a beautiful time for, right, the seeds that have been internal to start making their way into the world. So this is the time. They really had us wait all through the spring here, but now is the time to start figuring out, right, concrete manifestations of those impulses deep within you, aligned with your medicine, right? To really see what that means to you. Is that a plane ticket somewhere because you actually need a retreat? That is an action, even though you need a retreat, right? Or whatever it is. There's nonetheless a sense of action. And that doesn't just mean in the way we confuse things in modernity of work and productivity and money and all of that. It's concrete action that is aligned, that allows you to embody that peaceful warrior, to embody gentleness and strength at the same time. And in this case, it's where, fire and Ma are like really giving me, they're saying, right, the gentleness is in the fire energy. And the strength is in the balance that's coming deep within from that yin, from that womb of creation within your being. Right? That translates the formless into form. And Shri Yukteswar is back to his magic wand business. And he says, we have one magic wand, but the thing about the magic wands is that when you spark your own magic wand, it automatically helps light up all the other magic wands in contact with you. How do you show up fully as the peaceful warrior through the mundane? And it's through the mundane that you touch the sublime. Because if the mundane is approached with full presence, it's no longer mundane. It's magic, and there you are. Your magic wand is lit. So the fire element is saying, if I'm gentle, please understand that I'm nourishing, right? The fire is the heat of the sun that allows the plants to blossom, allows the harvests to thrive, allows the fruit to mature. So in that gentleness, please tap into the nourishment that I'm offering you. Regardless of the fact that there's folks around the world that are misusing me right now. Honor me for who I really am and live me, please. Live me well. So I'm hearing fire saying, please help me. Help me be in the world in a beautiful, harmonious, gentle, life-nourishing presence that I am.